Today's episode is brought to you by SeatGeek, our presenting sponsor and favorite app for buying and selling tickets for sports and music. I used SeatGeek to buy Billy Joel tickets for my wife and daughter at MSG last night, and they had an awesome time. And Billy Joel, keep cranking, man. We love you. Go to SeatGeek.com/BS to learn how to buy and sell on SeatGeek. Don't forget to download the free SeatGeek app. Enter promo code BS. That happens to be my initials. What a coincidence. And SeatGeek will send you $20 once you've made your first purchase. Oh, and this is a good one. House, you're going to get hungry just from this read. You ready? Today's episode is also brought to you by Blue Apron. Stop ordering expensive takeout, House, for less than $10 per meal. Blue Apron will deliver you all the fresh ingredients you need for a delicious and healthy home-cooked meal. Hey, House, would you eat Juicy Lucy burgers with frizzled onion and butter, lettuce, walnut salad? I bet you'd eat that.
Yes, I would.
What about shrimp scampi and fresh linguine with broccoli and cucumber iceberg salad?
Done.
What about 3-cheese calzones with lacinato, kale, and tomato sauce? You'd eat that.
Wonderful.
Well, if you use Blue Apron, you could be making those healthy dishes. Tonight, right now, you can get your first 2 meals for free by going to blueapron.com. BS, and it's time for Friday Rolling.
Yeah. Clear enough for you?
It's a special edition of Friday Rolling. House, you ready?
I mean, it's Friday and we're rolling. Happy New Year.
Yeah, we took last week off. I don't think anyone cared because nobody listens to podcasts during holiday week. Although people, it was like, I don't know, 80% of what we normally get. But it does seem like, I don't think people missed us that much. But they would miss us this week because it's round one. My dream in life is to go 11-0 against the spread in round one. I have no other dreams. I've won titles in all my sports. All my Boston teams have won titles. Actually, I do. My daughter winning a state cup in soccer, that's a dream. Going 11-0 against the spread, I think that's a dream. I don't have much left. House, have you ever gone? You haven't gone 11-0 against the spread, right?
No, I think I lost one game 3 years ago on one of my hot streaks. That was the year that Seattle beat the pants off Denver. I lost one game that year.
So, really weird outcome, and then now it's flipped because it seems like Washington is going to end up being favored against Green Bay. But on like Thursday, all 4 road teams were favored in round one, and I immediately tweeted out the Hill Street Blues, Michael Conrad, let's be careful out there link, because nothing makes me more nervous than road favorites in the playoffs. It's just pretty damning. In the wild card round, which I think started, I don't know, somewhere in the mid-'80s, late 80s, whatever, early 90s. When did the wild card round start? I don't even remember. Home dogs, 12-8 straight up, and 13-7 against the spread in the wild card round. Now, 13-7, if you're betting $1 million a game, you're rolling. You're in Mexico. You're living with Haralabob or somewhere, wherever Haralabob lives. Road dogs are road favorites. Are you scared of the road favorites this week, House?
Against the spread, yes, I am. I mean, there's 2 different things going on here. I like very much a couple of the road favorites to win the games outright, but
You're talking money lines.
Yeah, I don't like laying points to them. There's a couple of these that I just maybe 3 of them, maybe 4 of them. I don't like laying the points.
Well, let's go one at a time, and we'll go in order of how the games are being played. The Shaky Special on Saturday at 1:30. 1:30 West Coast time, so I guess 4:30 East Coast time, right? KC is at Houston. And KC was 3-point favorites all week, which I loved, and now they're 3.5-point favorites. And I keep waiting for everybody to jump on Houston at some point because it's Andy Reid, because it's the Chiefs, J.J. Watt had his cast off, Houston home, all that stuff. Just kind of trickle that line to 3 and maybe even ideally 2.5. Doesn't seem to be happening. These 2 teams are combined 16-2 since Halloween. Houston's defense is pretty good. 10 points or less they have allowed in 6 of their last 9 games. The Patriots torched them. And I think that's relatively important for what we're about to talk about. Their only good QBs that they've gone against this year: Tom Brady, Andrew Luck, Drew Brees, Cam Newton. They were in that putrid. They get to play 6 games against the AFC South, including one where Luck wasn't there. The case against them, other than the fact that they're Houston, no Dwayne Brown. Left tackle's out. Right tackle's hurt. Might play, might not. I haven't seen a definitive answer on that. Center's going to play, but had a concussion. Brian Hoyer's had, 2 concussions this year? This feels like one of those picks where you take Houston and you feel like a moron about halfway through the second quarter. What scares you about taking Houston other than everything I mentioned?
Everything you just mentioned. I mean, with special emphasis on the moron part, because that's exactly where I'm going to find myself in this game. I'm not willing to concede 3.5 to Kansas City under any circumstances, with all of the Andy Reid angles at play here. Kansas City 0-10 against the spread in its last 10 wild card games. Andy Reid 3-8 against the spread in the playoffs when he's playing a team that's coming off back-to-back wins. 0-5 against the spread when his team is favored. So this is to me an immovable object versus unstoppable force kind of situation. Trend for the Chiefs, a trend that helps the Chiefs. The Houston Texans have held their opponents to 6 and 10 points over the last 3 games. Very impressive.
Yeah.
But that works against them, 2-9 against the spread as an underdog of more than 2 points.
These are a lot of numbers, House. You just see.
Well, I'm an angles
there?
guy. I like the angles.
Well, you left out the Chiefs. How about this? The Chiefs haven't run a road playoff game since 1993, the 1993 season when they won in Houston. We had basically were just fresh out of college at that point.
Yeah, I mean, that's
a long
almost
time.
25 years ago.
Yeah, OJ and his wife were still married in 1993, to put that in perspective. That scares me. There's a lot of Andy Reid, KC, just how many times have we been burned by this situation? Separately with KC, separately with Andy Reid, and then together, it feels like the perfect storm of, oh yeah, KC, they're so much better. I'm putting my mortgage on KC, and then Houston somehow wins, and you're just like, I can't believe I did it again. I can't believe I trusted KC. Can't believe it. What did I do?
See, I actually think Kansas City is going to win. I'm just completely unwilling to lay 3.5.
Well, I'm going to make you feel better about that. Justin Houston's back. That's good. KC seems
That's
healthy. The line's playing well. They've been playing well. They're on 10 straight. Houston is it's not even an are we sure they're a good team. It's are we even sure they're half decent? The Patriots killed them. And it was one of those things where if the Patriots played them 10 times, I think the Patriots would have beaten them 10 times. And one of the things they did on defense was, you just assume they're going to throw Malcolm Butler on DeAndre Hopkins and want to have him shut him down. That matchup will decide the game. They just double-teamed Hopkins. They didn't even use Butler on Hopkins. They just double-teamed him. They just took Hopkins out of the game, and they put Butler on Houston's second receiver. And now Houston couldn't throw the ball at all, and it was over. Why wouldn't the Chiefs do that?
Why wouldn't the Chiefs do that? And the Chiefs have an excellent secondary.
Excellent secondary. Double-team Hopkins. Take him out. Put Peters on Houston's second receiver, which I think is still Nate Washington. It doesn't even seem possible. So who's beating them? Alfred Blue? Brian Hoyer? And what if Brian Hoyer gets hurt? Realize we're one Brian Hoyer hit away from Brandon Weeden coming into this game. That's another reason I can't take Houston.
Wow.
Think about that. You're down 10-3 in the second quarter. Hoyer takes a huge hit from Justin Houston. And all of a sudden, and the announcer goes, there's Brandon Weeden warming up. Oh my God. Get me out of this bet if I have Houston. I just can't do it. Here's what I think the move is with this game if you're betting on it. I think the move is to use the Kansas City money line, which I think is like minus 180. And I think you parlay that with another game you like. And then you're protected against the line. But We have to pick against the spread, and I'm going to take KC minus 3.5 because I think if they get up 7, the game's over.
Yeah, I'm taking Houston. I just can't. The half point is the big decider. I think that I would be thinking very differently about this if it was 2.5 or 3, but that half point, I'm completely unwilling to lay it.
So the playoff manifesto, which I kept writing over and over again from 1997 to 2015.
It started with 10 entries and ended up with...
Yeah. Kept working on it. One of the rules is don't really look at the spread. Just pick who you're going to win, who you think's going to win. Don't try to get cute because just pretend your life is on the game. And if your life's on the game, you're going to be murdered if you have the wrong choice. And just throw the line out completely. Who are you taking? You're taking KC, right?
I am.
So the only reason you're taking Houston is because of that extra half point.
That's true.
That's not a good reason to put your life on the line, is my point. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. You have Brian Hoyer, who's one hit away from Brandon Whedon. You have no playmakers other than Hopkins, who the Chiefs can take out. I just feel like you'd be really worried about your life around midway through the second quarter.
I would hate my life if it came down to the outcome of this game. Let's just be honest.
So here's the case against the Chiefs. It looks too easy. Terrible postseason history. Their fans will go into we're expecting the worst mode as soon as something goes wrong. And this just feels like a typical classic Andy Reid game, which, last week with Fitzpatrick in that do or die Jets game, and the case against the Jets was Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't had one of those games where he just rams it up your butt when you're least expecting it.
The rammer.
And they're driving downfield, and it's great. They're about to take the lead, and then boom, 3 interceptions in 10 minutes.
It's not my fault that you, and by extension Sal, didn't loop me in on the discussion of whether or not to put the Jets into anything. I had the Bills. I love the Bills. I put them in the ESPN thing. If we had been rolling last week, I would have told you, be careful with the Jets. The rammer is out there.
The rammer. He had a telephone pole he rammed right up there. So the Chiefs remind me of that, but I just don't think Houston's good. That's really what it comes down to. I don't think this is a situation. Sometimes you can talk yourself into some of these teams, but here are their wins. They've won 9 games. I was just going to say,
right? Who's the best team they beat in the last 8 weeks? Because that's really what we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm going to go through their wins for you, and you tell me if you feel good about taking that 3.5. They beat the Bucks in week 3. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Jaguars in week 6. They beat the Titans in week 7. They beat the Bengals in that weird Monday night game when everybody was too excited about the Bengals and they just crapped the bed. And so that's a good win. That was a really strange game, and I'm not entirely sure what happened in that game.
I remember being acutely my feelings were hurt because I was ready to invest in Cincinnati, and there were a bunch of trends against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
In that, and I said, you know what? I'm not going with the trends. This is one where I'm just going with what my eyes tell me. What my eyes suck.
Yep. Next week they beat the Jets 24-17.
Those are two. That's a back-to-back.
Not bad.
2 legit wins, right?
Not bad. They beat the Jets at home. They were getting 4 points that game. They beat the Saints. They got killed by. I'm sorry. They lost to the Bills. Then they got killed by the Pats. Last 3 weeks, they beat the Colts and broken down Matt Hasselbeck and made Charlie Whitehurst might have even been involved in that game. They killed the Titans, who are the worst team in the league, who have the number 1 pick, and they killed the Jaguars in a meaningless Week 17 game when they had basically already clinched the AFC South. So those are all of their wins.
2 good ones.
2 good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, House, I'm glad we disagree this early, but God damn, I'm taking Andy Reid. I can't believe it.
You are. I can't wait to text you tomorrow.
I can't. I can't take Houston.
Andy
I can't
Reid.
take Power.
Andy Reid.
I
I
understand.
understand.
You're taking Hoyer.
I'm not talking myself. It's why I trotted out all those technical angles. There isn't anything about Houston, the football team, that I like. I just like the situation slightly better.
All right. Well, it's good for the Patriots if the best case scenario for the Patriots is if KC wins this game and then Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh. Because then the Patriots would have Cincinnati in round 2. Casey would go to Denver, and I think that's a nightmare for Denver if Casey goes to Denver.
Sure.
At that point, you're just banking on Andy Reid. All right, second game. Pittsburgh at Cincy, Saturday night, a perennially strange game. Usually weirdness happens on Saturday night. Most famously, I think that was the Tebow overtime touchdown, which as the years pass is bordering on becoming the most incredible play in the history of the NFL, considering Tim Tebow threw an overtime. The new rules started that year. Tim Tebow throws an 80-yard overtime touchdown pass to win a playoff game. That happened. That happened in our lifetime.
A single moment, that's a legacy moment for a guy that 32 football teams have determined can't have a career in this league.
I had
a legacy moment.
I had the Denver money line. I had them against the spread. That was one. And listen, I believe in Tim Tebow. You can't tell me he's worse than some of the dudes we watched the last 3 to 4 weeks. It's just unbelievable to me that he can't play. But Charlie Whitehurst, all these dudes, like Josh Freeman gets exhumed from his graveyard. He gets to play. Where's Tim Tebow?
He must not want to play.
Yeah, there's something.
We should be investigating this. There's something going on there, right?
Yeah, feels like it. So Pittsburgh at Cincy. Tomlin versus Marvin Lewis. Tomlin always scares me to have money on him because he does weird stuff. I've talked about this before, but he's the guy who hits on 18 in blackjack for no reason, and he's just laughing and he's having mixed drinks, and it's fun to be at his table, but at the same time he's screwing up the cards and you're kind of annoyed by him. But you don't want to leave the table either because he's fun. And then Marvin Lewis, who's just can't win in the playoffs, has no playoff wins, 0.
Another one, another immovable object versus an unstoppable force game to me.
You have A.J. McCarron going against Ben Roethlisberger. And on paper, Playoff Manifesto, looking at the quarterbacks, is like number 1. So basically, you take Cincinnati, you're betting against Ben Roethlisberger, and you have money on A.J. McCarron, who wasn't playing until 6 weeks ago, career backup, and that's your choice. Doesn't seem like a great choice.
It does not seem like a great choice.
Since
and
he
yet
has,
I'm prepared to do it.
Since he has 7 straight non-covers in the playoffs, they have not won a playoff game since 1990. They have 1 wild card win ever. Roethlisberger 10-5 straight up in the playoffs, 9-6 versus the spread. Great passing attack with Pittsburgh. I'm scared of all of their receivers. Antonio Brown will be the best player in the game. Since he's got McCarron, who has not thrown for over 200 yards yet in any of these starts, right? Yeah, he has not topped 200 yards in any start. Running backs are fine. AJ Green's great. Eifert's back, which is good. They're home. It's going to be cold. And normally I would say I'm just taking the better quarterback. There's an X factor. There's 2 X factors, actually.
Oh.
One is that D'Angelo Williams is wearing a walking boot. That seems like a problem.
That's a factor. A factor with a big mark, with a big X mark on it.
Right. Their offense is basically, we have great receivers. We're spreading them out. We're going to put 1 running back there. And you have to worry about the running back because he's actually pretty good. That's the kind of offense that the Patriots have a lot of trouble shutting down. In Pittsburgh's case, you have now removed the running back who's pretty good, who's above average, who isn't as dangerous as Le'Veon Bell was, but was good, was cranking out 4 or 5 yards a pop. Now you're putting in dudes I've never heard of who aren't good. And, there's a tipping point.
Like you mean Fitzgerald, Pierre, Gary, Trudeau, Toussaint?
Yeah, those guys aren't coming back to haunt you in any capacity. And the Patriots were in this had the same thing happen when they lost Deion Lewis. And when you have really ordinary, mediocre running backs, it cripples your offense because now when those guys are in there, their defense isn't worried about them. When Deion Lewis was in there, he could run the ball, he could catch the ball out of the backfield. The defense had to worry about him, and that opened up other parts of the field. But with these guys, no. So now since he's going to this game thinking, we just got to shut down their receivers and we're going to win. And Baltimore did that in week 16. They did that weird zone defense on them. It took away all the long plays. Pittsburgh had 17 points. So can that happen again, House?
I think so. I like Cincinnati's defense quite a bit. Over the course of the season, we have a very nice sample out of them. They are a markedly better defense than Pittsburgh's defense. And they're all the factors of the past history with Cincinnati are unnerving. And yet, I like Cincinnati. They're the team with the better record getting points at home.
It's crazy.
Which just feels like in your playoff manifesto, isn't that in the top 5 of rules to pay attention to, things to pay attention to?
Yeah, it's the quarterback would be the reason to be afraid, as well as the history. But you were afraid of KC's history, and you're not afraid of Cincy's history, which makes you a giant hypocrite. I just want to
No, I am afraid of Cincy's history. I hate Cincy's history, but I have been impressed by the body of work over the course of the season. The difference between ignoring the Cincy history in this instance and sort of honoring the history of the Chiefs is the body of work for Cincinnati over the course of this season.
I forgot to mention.
I feel like there's a regression moment here. They're ready to flip the script.
So the Chiefs, I forgot to mention, were 5th in DVOA this season. 6th offense, 6th defense, 7th special teams. That's really good. Their weighted DVOA, which is a really good stat because it values like how the team is doing relatively recently, right? What the uptick is. They're 2nd in the league behind Seattle. So they're peaking at the right time. Yeah. Houston was 18th in DVOA. 32nd ranked special teams, which I love bad special team going against bad special teams in the playoffs because it's almost like if you have a sore on your knee and the playoffs are it's the most likely place to just have that scab ripped off. If you don't want to go into the playoffs with bad special teams, which they have. And they have the 24th offense by DVOA. So 2 of the 3 things they do are awful. So if you're picking Houston, you're basically saying the defense is winning this game. It's going to be a 13-10 game, and Houston's winning it. They're getting turnovers. Again, I don't feel good about that. With Cincy Pitt, the reason I bring this up, Cincy Pittsburgh. Cincy's 2nd in DVOA for the season behind Seattle, which I didn't realize, and I was surprised.
That's the body of work.
Yeah, Pittsburgh was 7th. Weighted DVOA, Pittsburgh was slightly better. It said Pittsburgh's D was 11th. For the season in DVOA, but when I watch them, for some reason I watch more Pittsburgh games than usual. It just seems like you could move the ball on them.
You know why? Because you can move the ball on them.
You could. Well, they get turnovers.
They're super opportunistic. Barnwell's great kryptonite column from this week.
Yeah, that was excellent.
If they don't create a turnover, they're very susceptible. They're very vulnerable.
Right. You could say that about, turnovers help every defense. But my thing with Pittsburgh is you can just put 12-play, 80-yard drives on them anytime you want, unless they're getting a thing. And it just seems really easy to move the ball over and over again down the field. Baltimore was doing it, for God's sakes. So with Cincy, I don't think McCarron's bad. Did you watch the Cincy-Denver game, which was pretty excruciating for the most part? He's pretty good.
I did. I watched the entire thing.
First half of that game, Denver's defense, they're going all out. McCarron, I like the way he handled himself. Like, he's not perfect, but I don't think he's a disaster.
I just don't think he's going to be cowed. He's not going to be afraid of the moment, which seems to be a little bit of a characteristic that I think we could fairly attribute to Dalton. Just not up to the moment in those playoff games, and it kept, the recurrence of it started to feel like a characteristic. I like the clean slate of McCarron.
Yeah. So the Steelers, they beat the Niners, beat the Rams, lost to the Ravens in OT, beat the Chargers, beat the Cards. The Cards is their best win. +6 favorites at home. Was that the Landry Jones game? Yeah, I think it was. Roethlisberger got hurt, and then Landry Jones came in.
Amazing. That's right.
Week 9 beat the Raiders. Week 10 Browns. Week 13 Colts. They beat the Bengals in Week 14, but that was the game that Dalton broke his thumb, right?
Yes.
Beat the Broncos. They beat the Broncos at home. Brock Osweiler beat the Browns. It's not. I can't say that's the most inspiring slate of wins.
They're good though. I mean, nobody would be surprised if they went on a run here and were in the Super Bowl again.
Okay.
I wouldn't be shocked.
You just made the case against them because people think they're better than they are. I think, including myself. I was like, I don't want to play the Steelers. Oh, the Pats got to avoid the Steelers. I'm terrified of those receivers. It's like, why am I afraid of the Steelers? Because they got good receivers? Great. It's going to be 0 degrees in Cincinnati. How many yards are they going to throw for? I don't know. I like Cincy. I like getting the points. I think either team could win. I feel like you're getting 3 free points in this game. And I think
Exactly
Cincy
the
can
way
win.
I feel. That's my rationale. I like Cincinnati under these circumstances as well.
You know what I don't like? In a freezing game where the road team has no running game whatsoever. I don't like that.
Yeah, it's Pierre Fitzgerald Trudeau Toussaint. Is that his name?
Now, I don't feel as confident about this one as I do about KC, only because this is a game that Big Ben could just win by himself.
It is. You know, one thing we haven't mentioned also, it's Pittsburgh's 3rd straight road game.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of angles that run against teams in that situation, too.
So, worst case scenario for each team. Since he blows this game, I think Marvin Lewis is gone. Right? Maybe.
Wow. Why?
How many playoff games can you lose? Who's he going to lose 20 before he gets fired? Like, at some point, you got to move on. They should be able to win this game.
I don't know. They've had a pretty impressive run of success. It feels like a change for change's sake.
No, that's
There's
the
no
NFL
core sickness, core infirmity with the Bengals. Red Rifle's untimely injury.
I have one more point for you in this game.
Go ahead.
It's really hard to beat the same team twice on the road that is a rival, that is a good team. I think, like, the Patriots could go into Houston and beat them again. I mean, nobody would be surprised by that.
I'm so glad you made
Pittsburgh
this
going
point.
into Cincy and beating them twice in the same season within 5 weeks of each other feels far-fetched to me.
Let me give you a nice little angle from my good buddy, Big Al, BigAlMcMorty.com. NFL teams are a perfect, let me repeat that, perfect 10-0 against the spread in the playoffs, against division rivals, if they're coming off of a point spread defeat and playing with revenge from a loss in which they gave up 28 or greater points.
Beautiful.
Pittsburgh beat the Bengals 33-20 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And the Bengals just failed to cover.
I'm taking Cincy. I don't feel awesome about it, but I feel good about it. I think it's a nice little slight contrarian play. I think most people like Pittsburgh. I think most people are thinking about Pittsburgh versus Denver round 2 already. A.J. McCarron is kind of the red herring for people in this game. And I don't – here's the thing. Was Andy Dalton great in any playoff games? Is Andy Dalton even that good?
Well, this is the thing, right? I like McCarron as a fresh face here.
Yeah. All right, before we get to the one last thing on this Saturday. This is my other prediction because I'm doing Cincy KC. The narrative of the day is people throwing out their baggage. Cincy finally gets a win. KC finally gets a win. Andy Reid on the road. It's just
I like it.
It's the baggage shedding day on Saturday.
See, the baggage shedding doesn't even hurt my Houston pick because Kansas City can win. I just don't think they're going to cover the 3.5.
All right. I want to talk about our buddies at Squarespace.
Good friends of ours.
They build fantastic websites for normal people. We're relatively normal people.
Yeah, I'm normal to slightly under.
I look at our friend cousin Sal, who went 13-4 in his best bets on SportsCenter, who made playoff bets this week on SportsCenter, and very hard to find his picks online. If he had a Squarespace site, I could just go to his Squarespace site and find out who he picked. He's too lazy to do that. You're not as lazy. I'm making you do a Squarespace site. You haven't done it yet, right?
I have not done one yet, no. We've talked about it off and on over the course of the season here. I'm ready to do it.
All right, you're going to do it over the weekend, and you're going to put it up on Twitter and tell people where it is.
I'm going to do it.
You're going to do it. You almost had a perfect weekend picking games last month. You had a chance to go 16-0 heading into the late Sunday games in Week 16, right, which had never happened in our picks.
11-0 heading into the afternoon.
And yet I can't find your picks unless I'm looking at them on Twitter or listening to them on this podcast. But I think you should build a website for your picks using Squarespace. So you're going to do that.
I'm going to do it.
Next Friday on this podcast, we're going to say what the URL is. Squarespace makes it easy to build beautiful websites regardless of skill level. No coding needed. Easy to use tools. State-of-the-art technology. Get 24/7 online support. A beautiful website for only $8 a month. It's a really nice site. You should go check it out. You even get a free domain if you buy Squarespace for the year. So why wait? Start your trial. No credit card required. Go to squarespace.com. Use the offer code BS for 10% off your first purchase. All right, Sunday's games.
Sunday's games.
Is your team first?
No.
Okay.
We're the late game. All of America
right.
wants to see
Yeah, you like that.
the DC Grudens.
Seattle at Minnesota. It's going to be the coldest game in the history of the NFL.
Is that true?
That's what they're saying.
In the history of the NFL?
In the history of the NFL, there's never been a colder game. Seattle minus 5.5 now against Minnesota. Everyone in the world wants this line to be 3 so we can take Seattle. And Vegas is just like, no, we're putting it here. Putting it here. We dare you to take Minnesota. Oh, minus 5 isn't good enough? Or plus 5? We're going to bump it up to 5.5. This game will be 6 by game time.
Oh, that's America. America's doing that.
Yeah, America's doing it. Vegas is just like, oh, we want equal action on both sides. 5's not going to do it. What about 5.5? Nope, that's the more Seattle money still coming in. Damn it, let's go to 6. They're just dying for us to take Minnesota. They're begging us. Now it's at 6 points. He was 6-point road underdog or home underdog, and I still like Seattle.
Oh, that's so funny. I'm taking Minnesota.
I can't do it.
I'm going to do it.
I can't do it. I can't take a team just because of the spread. I just can't. So make your case for
a fair principle.
Make your case for Minnesota.
Well, I first of all, the weather thing is a factor I like. I have seen a bunch of evidence out there about the increased turnovers that occur in these cold weather games, and I think that slightly favors the team who's playing the ball control game. Now, it is kind of crazy to be talking about Seattle as a run and gun, wheel and deal offense, but that's exactly what they've been over the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson has been spectacular, and they've been running a pretty traditional, passing offense for the first time in Russell Wilson's career. Hey, he's pretty good at it, it looks like. But I like the Vikings with the ball control kind of offense they have been perpetrating all year. A mistake, not mistake immune, but an offense intended to minimize the mistakes. And if I'm looking at this game from the perspective of the running backs, right, I'm not looking at which quarterback is more likely to have success.
Yeah.
I like AP up against the just returning Marshawn.
All fair points. And when it's that cold, I almost just want to gravitate toward the home team because I feel like the road team's just bummed out, just in general. But here's my counter. I have a couple counters for you. I think Seattle's one of the 4 best teams in the league. I love the way they're playing, and they're healthy. I like teams that are healthy going in.
The whole defense is healthy.
Yeah, they have 11 healthy guys now on defense.
And that.
Just, they lost Jimmy Graham, but the left tackle's back, Okung. They're just good. They're the counter is what happened to them in week 16 against the Rams. Aren't the Vikings similar to the Rams? Don't they have the same type of team, swarming defense, run game? But in the playoffs, like if you're Seattle, aren't you just taking out Peterson? Just moving Cam Chancellor up? Please beat us, Teddy Bridgewater. Go ahead. Take it. If we're losing in the playoffs, it's going to be because Teddy Bridgewater throws for 350 yards in -7 degree weather. I don't see it. What happens if
So-
the Vikings are behind? What if they're down 7-3?
They're going to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball.
Yeah, but you can stop that in the playoffs. If it's a case of just I'm taking away what the other team does well in a football playoff game, which happens over and over again, this seems like it's the easiest thing to take away. Running backs are notoriously up and down in the playoffs. I mean, you never win in the playoffs over and over again because you're a running back. You win because you're a quarterback. You can take out a running back. You can take out running backs in the playoffs now, I think.
Okay. I mean,
You don't agree?
Seattle. Well, Seattle's. The evidence to the contrary. I think it's fair to argue that Marshawn Lynch was a crucial element of last year's run.
Yeah, but they had Russell Wilson.
I know.
That's the
And
difference.
That's a good counter, by the way, to the argument about making this a running back against running back thing.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson's ability to scramble is unparalleled at the moment, and is the reason to feel comfortable about laying the points. I feel like it's just too many points. I would be fine if it was 2.5 or 3 Seattle favored. I'm just not laying 5.5 or 6. Not doing it.
I'm probably going to moneyline parlay KC and Seattle to wipe out the lines for those games because I think both of them are going to win and they're just better. The other thing,
Yeah.
Beast Mode's back for this game.
Beast Mode's back, and he's been. Did you see how lean he is?
Looks good.
He's been doing some MMA training.
Yeah, I've talked myself into Seattle. I really want to take Minnesota in this game, and I just don't trust Bridgewater. And every time I've kind of gotten behind them, I've watched the game and been kicking myself because I just think they're pretty limited on the offense. And I don't trust Patterson. I mean, what are the odds of Patterson putting the ball on the ground on a special teams play in this game? I'm going to say 100%.
It's a little unnerving.
Yeah. So anyway,
I'm just
this
not
is my
laying the
gift to the
point.
Viking fans because I like Seattle.
Couple angles that support the Vikings. Teams playing with revenge in a loss where they gave up 28 points or more. 55-37 against the spread. That's a nice angle, but 5-0 as a home underdog. In this instance, the Vikings are a home underdog. I like 5-0. Home
You know
underdog.
who else is 5-0, by the way? Russell
Who's
Wilson
that?
in the playoffs as a favorite. Go ahead.
Look, it's nice. There's a lot of contrary stuff out there.
And Seattle has
Vikings
4 straight
9-1
wild
against
card
the
wins.
spread. Last 10 games, Vikings 9-1 against the spread as an underdog.
Seattle's 4 straight wild card
The other
wins.
one I like though is home underdogs off back-to-back wins.
Yeah.
26-5 in non-division games since 1980. If they're coming in with a better record than their opponent, that happens to be the case here between the Vikings and the Seahawks. In the playoffs, those teams are 7-1 against the spread.
So you
So
think
this is. I just like the spread. I like the 5.5. I like the 6. I think it's going to be an even game. It might be 10-7, 10-6 this game.
well, and that's where I was leaning for a lot of the week, where it's just like it's gonna be freezing cold, and these teams are gonna score 17 points combined and whatever. But I actually think I don't know. I just don't want to take Teddy Bridgewater and Minnesota's offense in this game. And the fact that Peterson's a little banged up and he's had back issues and he missed a practice and he had a lot of miles put on him this year. He's 31 years old. It's freezing cold. This Cam Chancellor's just, he's going to come up as like the 8th guy on the line.
Yeah.
And they're just going to try to beat the shit out of him for 4 quarters.
I don't feel bad about a Seattle winning and kicking the Vikings' ass. I just am not prepared to give the points. That's all.
Here's your worst case scenario for this game. It's 10-0 Seattle. Bridgewater's just thrown a pick, and now they're showing Adrian Peterson gingerly walking to the locker room. Let's go down to Pam Oliver. Pam, what's going on with Adrian? His back is bothering him again. He took a hard hit from Cam Chancellor, and he is questionable to return, guys. Toby Gerhardt's going to be in there. Not Toby Gerhardt. Who's their backup now? Whoever it is. That's your
Gerhardt,
nightmare
that's so
scenario,
funny.
right? At that point, you're like, oh, this game's going to be a 31-3 final.
And that might happen.
I had one more
That would
point
be the
about
worst case
cold.
scenario.
So, remember watching Cincinnati and San Diego when we were kids
Yeah.
in 1980?
Yep.
And it was like freezing cold. But when it was freezing cold in 1980, it was like your life was in danger. You're like in that Everest movie. They had none of the shit they have now. They had none of the clothes they have now. They had none of the fancy heaters on the sidelines.
The heaters on the sideline.
They're playing
big coats.
They're playing on artificial turf, which back in the 70s and 80s, artificial turf was basically they put the field over concrete and then just laid over this piece of turf over it.
It's astonishing that more guys weren't hurt, in those moments.
Oh, I think they were. I don't think anyone who played in that game was ever the same. I think all of them were ruined for life in some capacity. I think it took 5 years off their playing careers. They're just
with all the concussion stuff. I'm not even making a joke about that.
Well, no, seriously, I'm saying about they're just the physical abuse that their shoulders, their backs, their knees, their legs, all that stuff, just playing on a frozen concrete field for 4 quarters.
Ludicrous.
And now it's all right. It's freezing, but I have all these weird little warmer things, and I have the heaters, and I'm doing this, and the field's frozen, but it's not frozen in a way that my life's in danger on every play. And I don't know. I was just thinking about that. That Seattle or the San Diego Cincy game would be a good documentary.
Oh,
because San Diego was like the Steve Nash Suns, basically, of that era.
Sure.
And probably should have won a Super Bowl at some point in there. Just the way they play, they're so unique and so innovative, and they're a critically acclaimed team, which is a fun phrase. That's the Suns end up they never won a title, but they were critically acclaimed. San Diego's like that, and they end up in the worst possible situation for the exact team that they were. They're in cold weather, the coldest weather ever. They're on the East Coast. They don't get to play their West Coast offense. They can't throw. Everybody's freezing, and all of a sudden their season's over. Anyway, I'm not as worried about Seattle with that.
It's fun that you work at a place where you're allowed to do documentaries. If
Good
you're
point,
inclined
House.
to do so.
Good point, House. Hey, we have to talk about our friends at Framebridge. They make it super easy to custom frame your favorite items. You can mail them anything. Art, posters, memorabilia, whatever you want. Yeah, their experts will frame it.
I have a Capital Bullets pennant in here, sitting on the floor right now.
Mail it to them. They wouldn't be happier to do anything in life than to frame that for you. You can even upload photos from your phone or your laptop and send them to them, and they'll frame that. Pricing starts at $39, a fraction of the expensive frame stores. All shipping is free. If you enter offer code BS at the checkout, you get 15% off your first Framebridge offer. They framed a jersey for the Cuz.
Yeah?
And it was awesome. It looked great.
Was it a Romo jersey?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
What are they going to frame a Whedon jersey for him? Of course it was a Romo jersey. They framed the Obama GQ thing that I did for me, and it looked awesome. And I was waiting until after the holidays to do this, but they told me they would frame some stuff for me. I'm going to send them 20 posters.
I want some stuff framed. I love this.
Maybe they'll frame it.
It's really reasonably priced. I had no idea.
You know what's funny about framing stores, though? Or, in your local neighborhood or whatever? It's the biggest ripoff of all time.
If you walk in there with 5 things...
It's like having money stolen from you.
If you walk in with 5 things, you're not walking out of there with the price quote under $800.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's the biggest racket of all time. So Framebridge has flipped that, and one of my favorite sponsors that we have on the pod, because I really believe that that it's better to go with them than to go to your local store where you're just
free shipping. I mean, the only thing about it is I don't want to put the mom and pops out of business, but
no,
more
we're putting
efficiency.
We're putting them out of business. Go Framebridge. All right. Speaking of mom and pop, and speaking of home cooking, your team, you like that?
I'm so beside myself. Yeah, I've calmed down a little bit since 2 weeks ago.
You don't like that as much.
I was all if we had Friday rolled, right before New Year, you would have heard me. There would have been songs sung. There would have been all kinds of stuff. The Eagles were so bad.
Yeah,
it's astonishing how bad they were in that game. That was the live embodiment of a team quitting on its coach. We got to watch it in all its glory on national TV.
I loved it.
And the fact that it featured my home team for once, I mean, the locals here, the DC Grudens, make it to the playoffs like once every election cycle.
Yeah.
So you have to savor these moments. You have to, really enjoy it. Take a long gulp of what they're putting out there. And it just so happens that this team is so likable.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins is the most likable guy. The story this week about him taking in foster dogs. He's on the podium in a starter jacket. He's the guy that Gruden wanted from the moment that Gruden arrived here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's finally come to pass, and everybody's being validated and vindicated. It's such a rare moment of success for the Washington professional football team.
I can't wait to play this next Friday after you lose by 14. We're just going to play it and listen to it. I'll do a director's commentary.
Oh, there are so many bad trends and bad angles against Washington in this game.
You know who I'm happy for even more than Kirk Cousins?
Who that?
Daniel Snyder. That guy deserves it, man.
Oh, how dare you?
That guy deserves it.
How
he's a
dare
great
you?
owner. He deserves
It's
it.
infuriating.
All he does is he's done right with the Redskins fans for years and years and years and years, and it's just to see him get rewarded like this. It really warms my heart.
I probably shouldn't say this. I'm actually going to attend the game this Sunday.
Why wouldn't you say that?
Well, here's that part I'm willing to say. There's no problem with that
there's
part.
other parts you can't say. Yeah.
Here's the part that I probably shouldn't say.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough to find myself in a situation where I'm probably going to be in a box.
Yeah.
And I emailed a couple buddies of mine, another couple diehards, that if no matter what the outcome of Sunday's game, if my path were to cross with Mr. Snyder's, I would definitely take the occasion to tell him that I hate his guts. I mean, 20 years of my life, 15 years of my life of ineptitude, franchise dysfunction. I can barely speak. The most demoralizing, cynical kind of behavior perpetrated against a faithful fan base here.
Yeah.
I just can't. Someday I'll make a peace with it. Maybe if they rip off this right now is the beginning of the Kirk Cousins decade coming up here. Maybe I'll get over all of the hurt feelings that I have for the franchise. But I haven't been to a game. I hate going out there. The stadium stinks. It's hard to get to. It's hard to get out of. I mean, I've been, and there hasn't been any reason to go. So.
I thought when you were setting up that run into Dan Snyder thing, I thought it was going to be like a Homeland season 1 Brody. If he's able to get into the White House, he's going to take out the president type of situation. I was scared for a second. I told my friends I would absolutely jab him with a hypodermic needle. No, I'm glad you would just tell him you hate his guts. But everything you just said made me even more worried for your Washington professional football team.
Oh, I know.
You just unironically said the words "the Kirk Cousins decade."
Well, it's possible. I like that.
The Kirk Cousins decade.
Come on, he's only 27.
Yeah. What a decade.
Him and Jay Gruden.
All right.
Well, we stuck to our fundamentals, got our game plan. The guys really did great job. Everybody chipped in. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. Just do your job. Everybody's doing their job.
So
Jay
Kirk
Gruden.
Cousins is since you like that game, according to our friend Bill Barnwell, 23 TDs and 3 picks. I said that stat on Monday, but I'm saying it again. The Redskins 6 straight wins as home favorites in the playoffs. 6-2 all time in the wild card round.
It's nice.
Green Bay, no playoff road wins since 2010. Lifetime 2-7 versus the NFC East in the playoffs. But throw all that away. Throw all the numbers away.
Yeah.
Green Bay just looks like something's wrong with them. And usually when your reasons for thinking it's going to turn around in the playoffs are just like, well, that's Aaron Rodgers. He's good. It reminds me a little of Pittsburgh in the year they lost to Tebow in round 1, when I think they were laying like 8 or 9 or 10 points or whatever, but they didn't look good, and Roethlisberger was banged up, and everybody was like, no, it's Roethlisberger, he'll be fine, and they just assumed it would be fine. I've watched a lot of Green Bay games because it seems like they're either on at night or they're always the late game or it's like the exclusive game. And we've talked about this. Oh, I went Phil Simms. Sorry. Joe, we've talked about this. His guys are never open. They're never, ever, ever open. The Jordy
Everybody's
Nelson
been talking
thing,
about that for 10 weeks now.
I know. The Jordy Nelson thing, when Jordy Nelson got hurt, I was like, oh, that's a tough one. They'll figure it out. It'll be fine. It's not fine. It
It's
killed
not
their
fine.
team. And the only time they ever seem to get big plays is either he throws it to James Jones, who's open by an inch, but the pass is so perfect, it's caught, or nobody's open. Rodgers almost gets sacked. He rolls around, scrambles, buys 7 more seconds, and somebody cuts off whatever their route was and finds a seam, and then they could put it that way. I don't like anything
The Hail
I see
Mary
from
is their
them.
best play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their best play is heaving the ball downfield and praying for pass interference.
Yeah, so they finished 10-6, and one of those wins was the Hail Mary. They
Barely
lost
count.
their last 2 weeks of the season. Their last 3 wins were the Lions, Cowboys, and Raiders.
Not impressive.
Their defense has not been the same since Sam Shields took a hike and got hurt. And I don't know. I always try to think about like what is the narrative going to be after the game, assuming I think it goes the way it's going to go. For me, this feels like they lose, and the two narratives are Redskins, Kirk Cousins. Things are looking up. It's never finally the Redskins fans have blah, blah, blah. That's one narrative. And then the other narrative is Mike McCarthy, time to go.
Yeah, I mean, the D.C. Grudens really are the feel-good team at the moment, aren't they?
Seems like it, which isn't a good
All
thing.
it-
By the way, people
all it-
always, I get emails sometimes from people who say they hate when I slurp and I'm spitting in the microphone or whatever I'm doing. I'm actually drinking a Kavita sparkling probiotic drink that is not a sponsored ad.
That's not a sponsored ad?
And I think the microphone picks, so I'm going to do it right now. Listen. That's the drink. That's just me
Yeah, that was
being a
loud.
bad host. That's just me
Yeah.
not moving far away enough from my microphone. So when you insult me about the weird noises during the podcast, it's not me being like some gross person who can't stop making mouth noises. I'm just being inconsiderate. So if you're gonna insult me in emails about the weird noises in the background, just insult me for being an inconsiderate host. Don't
I mean,
say
it is
I'm
the
like
Bill
a weird
Simmons
person who makes
podcast.
weird noises. Yeah.
And for the price, you got to,
Yeah, it's a free
people should
podcast.
be willing to indulge.
Cost you nothing.
Cost you nothing.
So Washington is favored by a point, but it's a pick 'em, and then Green Bay was favored at one point, and it just seems like it's floating between 1 and 1.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to end up, my prediction, we're taping this on a Friday morning West Coast time. I think it's going to end up Washington by 1.5. Is where
Oh,
we
that's
land.
funny. I thought it was going to end up Green Bay. I thought the
No.
money was going to slide in late for Green Bay.
I think everybody. First of all, I think Washington's pretty good. I've been saying that to you for a couple weeks, and you kind of deep down knew they were pretty good, but you didn't
Well,
want to commit
I wasn't
to it.
going to jinx the over. I had the over bet on win totals this season. And I wrote an email at the beginning of the season saying I thought they were a little bit improved and that they were going to get over the 6.5.
So here are your wins. You beat the Rams. Congratulations on that one. You beat the Rams in week 2.
You can say that for every win, by the way, but go ahead.
You beat the Eagles.
Congrats.
You beat the Bucks by 1. You beat
Congratulations.
You killed the Saints. You beat the Giants. And then the last 4, you won 4 in a row. Bears, Bills. But the Bills was a good win because that kind of knocked the Bills out. Eagles floundering, and then the Cowboys. What was amazing, and Sal and I talked about this the other day, you were only favored 3 times in 16 games.
Here's a characteristic about the list of teams you just read. Not one of them had a winning record.
Right.
it's
But would you
there was
say
an
the
all-
Packers are better than any of those teams? The Packers
the whole
are
thing
right
is
in the
that
middle of the road.
it's a congratulations season.
Yeah.
But that's what you get when you only win 7 games. When you go 7-25 the 2 previous seasons.
Right.
And the answer is no. I heard the question you just asked. Who are the Packers' most impressive wins all came in the first 6 games when the identity of the team, for whatever reason, is radically different than the identity of the team at the moment.
We didn't do DVOA for NFC yet. Seattle was number 1 in DVOA, and their weighted DVOA was 51.1%, which means nothing and is impossible to explain. But trust me, that's like really good.
Okay.
That's about as good as you're going to do heading into the playoffs. Minnesota was 11th in DVOA for the year and 10th overall. Seattle had the 2nd offense, the 4th defense, and the 3rd special teams. And Lockett was, it just feels like Lockett's going to be a playoff guy. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Certain guys where you just see like that guy's going to be a fucking bitch
Already.
in the playoffs. Yeah. Minnesota, 16th offense, 14th defense. Seattle's just better. So I'm glad. Congratulations on taking the points there. But then Washington is 15th DVOA. Green Bay was 10th. But Washington weighted DVOA was 12th, and Green Bay was 19th.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Yeah. So
I didn't
Washington
think
was
the
a
stats
top
were going to
12.
love Washington this year.
Yeah, they were a top 12 team in the weighted, which is what we care about. And Green Bay was 19th. And that actually reflects what I watched. It felt like Green Bay got worse as the year went along. And I think Rodgers knows it.
He knows it.
I
He
think
does.
Rodgers partly is deep down, he'd never admit this. And I don't even think he knows this. He knows he's not winning the Super Bowl with this team.
Not this year.
I don't think he's going into this going, guys, we're going to get hot. We're winning 4 straight. We're definitely going to win 3 on the road. Sometimes you know when you have a shitty team. And
No, they ended Week 17 with him saying, "Well, I'm not sure how we're going to right the ship, but we have to figure out a way."
yeah, he knows.
Yeah.
Put it this way. I bet he has a Sundance hotel room on hold. He's like, when Sundance?
He is a player.
Yeah, we're not
He
gonna
is a
be there.
baller.
Yeah, he's like, we're probably not going to still be in the playoffs at that point. Can you reserve that Sundance hotel room for me? Yeah, I think this has all the makings of one of the great random sports days of your life,
Oh, please.
culminating with you telling Snyder you hate his guts in the elevator.
That could be a culmination.
Or a really, really emotionally scarring, terrible day where the Cousins era falls apart. You lose. You're stuck getting out of there for 3.5 hours. You're not home till 11:30, and you hate everything.
It can't be any worse than the way that Washington lost to Seattle in 2012. I mean, that was the last great moment for RG3. The first half of that game, never to be heard from again. Robert Griffin III.
Well, I really like Washington in this game. The 2 games I really like are I like the Chiefs and I like Washington.
I only like one game this week, and it's Washington.
I'm going to bet on Washington. I'm going to bet on a Chiefs Seahawks moneyline parlay.
I like that. I don't fault any of it. I'm not going to bet on any of it because I don't love any of these games, and I don't want to double down on the heartbreak for the DC Grudens. But I'm really excited to go to this game and to root for this team and to revel in a playoff moment with 80,000 of my DMV peeps.
I have a wager on the Patriots to win the AFC at plus 175.
Oh, am I in on that one?
You can be.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. Here's my reasoning. If Cincy wins and KC wins, KC goes to Denver round 2. I think KC beats Denver. And I think we
tough one
beat
for
Cincinnati. And I think everyone's sleeping on the Pats because they played possum the last couple weeks. When Edelman and Amendola are back in there with Gronk, it's a team that scores 35 points a game. That's what they do when they have everybody back.
What's the status today of Friday, January
All those guys are
8th?
back. They're all practicing on Monday. The team's back.
All right.
Yeah, it's fine. They just wanted to get to round 2. They were doing everything possible to try to not get guys injured and to be careful. And they just didn't care. They didn't care if they were the 1 seed or the 2 seed.
It was a bizarre last 2 games of the season.
Yeah, and now Manning is in there for Denver, which is incredible to me.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. What a panic move by Kubiak. I can't believe he did that.
I'm not sure you can call it a panic move, though.
I just did. I just called it a panic move. I'm going to say it again. It was a panic move.
The guy's resume of playoff experience.
He's our
I think
age.
is probably It's slightly better though than Osweiler.
He had 9
Slightly better.
touchdowns and 17 turnovers.
That was early in the season. He got healthy. He was able to rest over the last several weeks.
Osweiler, and maybe there's audible stuff going on that we don't know, but man, Osweiler as a Patriot fan scared me more than Peyton Manning did. So.
I mean, maybe his wife got a couple shipments in the last 6 weeks.
Oh,
Who knows?
come on. Stop it. She's got shipments from Blue Apron. Healthy
Those
food.
are wonderful shipments.
Healthy food. She probably loves the healthy food at Blue Apron. Yeah, chicken parm tastes really good in the Manning house lately.
I'm not going to sing till next week.
So, anyway, I think if it breaks this way where it's KC at Denver and then Cincy at New England, then there's a chance the Pats could have KC in round 3.
I don't like plus 175. I'd like that better if it was like plus 250.
Well, they're gonna be favored in round 2,
Yeah, I know.
right? So it's basically just a parlay of round 2, round 3. You can go against it. But what is your Super Bowl pick? Because I have all the matchup odds.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I'll tell you what I did. The cousin and I did Cards and Pats plus 700.
Yeah, I wanted. Why? What do I have to do to get in on that? Who do I have to talk to?
We can.
You already did it. Where was my vote?
Well, you can be in it.
I mean, I'm Friday rolling. All we do once a week is talk about NFL wagers and angles and things of interest, items of interest.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that. That honest to goodness is my Super Bowl pick.
Cards and Pats plus 700.
Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I fear Seattle on the road because they played on the road last week. They're on the road this week. They're going to be on the road again next week. I think at some point that runs out, and I think where it runs out, it potentially is in Arizona 2 weeks from now.
Cards and Chiefs is plus 25.
Whatever it is.
Cards and Chiefs is plus 2,500. In case you were wondering, I know you were wondering about that one. Last thing, while I have you on the phone,
Please.
we have to talk NBA for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because people like our NBA. So basically, to recap our playoff picks, you like Houston plus 3.5. I like the Chiefs minus 3.5. We both like Cincy plus 3. We both like Washington minus 1, pick 'em plus 1, wherever it ends up. And you like the points in Minnesota. I'm taking the points as long as it goes up to 7. I mean, I'm laying the points as long as it goes up to 7.
Over 7, you wouldn't do it.
Wouldn't do it. So I'd like to apologize to you.
Oh.
I have an apology for you. 2016. But 2016 is about cleaning a slate and new beginnings, new starts, admitting your faults. I apologize for talking you out of the Kawhi Leonard MVP bet at 50-1. I feel bad about it.
50-1.
I don't think you're going to win, but there's a chance if Curry may play 62 games or something. What if he keeps getting hurt or something weird happens, and then him and Draymond split the vote, and all of a sudden Kawhi on the 67-win Spurs team ends up winning the MVP? I'd feel bad. I want to tell you that I feel bad.
That's so nice of you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I could have done it anyway. Obviously,
you could have done it or you couldn't have.
I could have gone ahead and made that bet.
Cavaliers Thunder finals matchup possible. You want to guess the odds for that?
It's got to be in the plus like 400 range, right? 500?
Plus 900.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, I have an irrational thing for OKC now.
Cavs Warriors is minus 110. Cavs Spurs is plus 275. Cavs Thunder plus 900.
So I like both the Spurs and the Thunder. I'm going to do both of those. I'm going to hang up the phone and make a communication, issue an electronic. I don't want to talk about electronic communication. I'm going to figure out a way
Just seems
to enjoy those odds.
OKC, they're definitely the third team in the West right now as a contender, no question. Doesn't seem like they're that far away from the Spurs, though. You still have to beat Westbrook and Durant 4 times in a 7-game series.
Yeah,
I would not want to have to do that. And it's going to happen in round 2 for somebody. It's going to happen. Spurs Warriors are playing OKC in round 2.
Seems like Billy Donovan is finally getting the hell out of the way.
Yeah, thanks for getting out of the way, Billy Donovan.
I mean,
You dumbass.
The idea that one of those two guys has to be on the floor at all times seems like it's catching on.
Here's what I like about OKC just as a future bet. I think they have a trade to make. I think they have too many big guys, and there's a 2-for-1 or something, but they're one more shooter waiting to happen. Ryan Anderson is a really interesting possibility for them.
Oh my gosh.
That's somebody who can play
Ryan.
crunch time for them.
Oh my gosh, you kidding?
You know, and he's sitting there, and teams want him. Like Ryan Anderson is going to end up getting a nice package for New Orleans for something, but that's somebody that could really help Oklahoma City. There's a couple.
Your
guys
team
like
needs a guy like that, by the way. I watched your team last night.
I'm done with my team. I'm out.
I'm done.
It's part of the process. They can't take off for the season until I've said nasty things about them and I've written them off. I'm just done.
It's too familiar. They still can't score. I hate watching their trips down the floor and the ball stopping and just missed open shots. It hurts my eyes.
There's two problems. One is that they're built around the three guards, and especially the defense of when they have Smart and Bradley and Crowder out there all at the same time, right? Their identity is defense, but Smart was hurt for a while, and now Bradley's hurt, and they can't get those guys going together at the same time. So none of this is that surprising.
Yeah.
But what's frustrating is, well, first of all, Isaiah Thomas isn't a crunch time guy day after day after day. He's a guy who should play 25 minutes a game, and you ride him when he's hot, and when he's not hot, you don't play him in crunch time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and this is the same problem as last year. What's the plan B?
Well, they don't. And there's a little James Harden going on with him where I don't want to call him a ball hog, but when he has the ball, he's going to do something with it, you know, and the other
I
guy's
think
kind of
that's funny.
standing
Let's
around.
just start calling him Little James Harden.
Little James, mini James.
Yeah.
But when he has it, everybody's kind of watching him, waiting to see what he does, right? And now it's been a full year of that, and it makes the Celtics pretty predictable. And what's happening is there's certain teams that have the right kind of guy to shut him down, right? Shumpert owns Isaiah Thomas. The taller guys who can move with him, they just take him out. And the Celtics have nobody else to create offense, you know, and he's playing too many guys, which is another problem. They have too many guys on the roster. Like, they're dying to make a 4-for-1, and it's just the trade hasn't materialized yet. But you can't play 11, 12 guys a game. Nobody's getting consistent minutes. I don't feel like anybody in the team is really happy with their minutes except for Crowder.
Yeah, I know that I have a problem with the Celtics when I'm watching, getting frustrated by their lack of ability to score and wishing that Evan Turner would get the ball more.
Yeah, Evan Turner is the second best creator in the entire team.
Yeah.
And he's actually been pretty good this season, but
Yeah.
I actually think Stevens should do the Spurs model of just certain guys sit every game. You know, almost like what my daughter has when they have, you know, like fifth grade volleyball and they have too many people on the team, so everybody has to sit out 2 games. Like, he should just try that with the big guys. But the other problem is their lineup last year that was really good was when they played Crowder at the 4 and they went a little small ball action with the guards and all that stuff. Everybody in the league does that now. It's not you're not taking anyone by surprise with that angle. You're just going against other teams that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And
you're not creating an advantage with it.
and the league's better. So the Celtics are in this weird no man's land where they're too good to tank, but they missed their window to go for the 2 seed or the 3 seed. They had 2 games against the Nets. They had a Lakers game. You know, they should have gone 4-0 and they went 1-3.
Oh, they still can, and we really, really, really need them to do this, win 45 games. They still can do it.
I think they can do that.
It's not too late.
I keep
And that's
waiting.
the thing
Nobody
I really
will
want
make
them to do.
Nobody will make a trade this year. You know, you look at all these teams that are just seem like they should be dying to make a trade. Like Phoenix, what the F are they waiting for?
Well, Houston's dying to make a trade.
Houston's dying to make a trade. What is Memphis just going to go down in flames with grit and grind? Nobody in the league plays that way anymore. Is that where you're doing,
looks
Memphis?
like it. It looks like it.
I'm interested to see. There's some.
My team needs to make a trade.
Your team definitely desperately needs to make a trade. But what's the trade? Are you willing to give up a number 1 pick? Are you willing to give up Otto Porter? Or
That
you have an
depends on what we
expiring?
get back. All of that. It just depends on what we get back. There's a lot of unpalatable options for my team.
I read a good piece somewhere. Maybe it was Dan Devine. Dan Devine does that like a power rankings thing or something. And he was saying how
yeah.
he loves how John Wall's playing, but he hates watching the Wizards. And I thought that summed it up. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah. John Wall's been, he had a little rocky start, got booed once, but
He was hurt.
he was hurt.
It came out after the month of November that he had it was a hamstring, he had a leg problem. I don't recall it off the top of my head anymore.
Are you sure you don't want to roll the dice with Dwight Howard?
Oh my God. Roll the dice down the sewer? Yes, I'm happy to do that. Take 2 dice and throw them down the sewer.
Really? You don't want to roll the dice with Dwight Howard?
Don't like him. Don't like his game. Don't know how he fits in. What was the last moment of extended success with Dwight Howard? What team do you point to that he's been on in the last 5 years and say, oh, well, that was pretty formidable. They were out doing stuff.
Would you trade Nene's expiring for Tyson Chandler?
Sure. Yeah, something like that.
Roll the
makes sense.
dice with Tyson Chandler and his weird contract and the fact
Yeah.
that he looks like a corpse?
Yeah, but that the pick and roll with him and John Wall, that's cool. I'm into that. I'm into that kind of thing.
I
would
think
definitely
that's
do
where you
that.
think. I think you need to use the Nene expiring and roll the
I've already
dice.
complained about not having gotten Channing Frye in the off season when the team knew that it was going to try and do this pace and space offense.
I don't think you should save cap space for Durant this summer because the move for him will be to roll it over and sign a 1-year deal and expire when Westbrook's expiring and have those guys go into 2017. He's not going to be a free agent this summer. It's not
That's
happening.
a fact. Zach Lowe did the definitive piece on this at the very beginning of the season. He is going to be, when he enters free agency properly, at the same time as Westbrook and Ibaka, a 10-year service player at exactly the moment that the cap explodes.
Right.
So he, under the current collective bargaining agreement, will be able to command 35% of the cap at that moment. He is not doing anything this upcoming summer other than re-signing with OKC and his homies. He's not going anywhere.
Talking about teams that might make a trade, the Clippers are fascinating to me. First of all, I've gone to 2 games this year, and I just dislike going to their games.
You don't like it, I know.
I don't like it. I just don't like going. I don't like how Doc has infected the fans. And I say this with love. You need Clipper fans. You know I love what you've been through, and I think you're good fans, and don't take this the wrong way, but every referee isn't against you. This isn't a league-wide conspiracy to just call games against the Clippers. Like
there's the chicken and egg
hysteria.
there. That team can't keep bitching. It took on that identity 3 years ago.
I know, and now it's infected the fans. And when they had these home games, it's just this tsunami of everybody thinking the world's against them. And it's like, yeah, some of these guys are hard to call. Like Blake Griffin, you could call a foul on every player. You could call a foul on no plays. And Chris Paul's really physical, and and DeAndre gets fouled all the time. And it's weird. I had more fun going to the Clipper games when it was like the Tim Thomas era, and it was just weird. And they had weird guys in the team, and you didn't know if somebody was stoned, and somebody could score 45 points or 0, and it was like, oh, good, Corey Maggette showed up tonight, and
Sure.
it was just more entertaining than whatever this is. I don't know what this is, but Blake got
They've
hurt.
been on a
and
little tear here now. Go ahead.
I know. Blake got hurt and they started playing better, which is the fundamental problem with this team, which is when they have those 3 guys together, it doesn't totally seem to work. Even though the plus minus, I've seen all the plus minus numbers. I'm just talking about crunch time. DeAndre and Blake at crunch time just seems like teams can know how to shut it down. Tate,
Go
do you like watching the Clippers at crunch time? No. Tate says no. Tate loves basketball.
Carolina guy.
I always like to ask Tate one question where he doesn't have a mic and there's just silence and the listener doesn't know what happened.
You always give him a yes or no answer opportunity too.
I would trade. This is sacrilege, and I really don't want this to end up as like a blog post or something. Like Simmons says trade Chris Paul, because I know how the internet works. Like, just settle down. I'm just talking to my buddy about basketball. I would trade Chris Paul right now if I was the Clippers. I would trade him today.
What could they get back?
I don't know. I would shop it around and see if I could get a point guard who could at least start for me, and a whole bunch of assets that either I could keep for the future or maybe flip into something else. I'd want to get a shooter back.
So somebody like Milwaukee that an interesting?
Something. Well, but you can't piss off Chris Paul either, right? You got to send him to a place where he's not going to be mad at you. And
Why?
If you're the other, well, because then if he's going to Milwaukee, he's going to be mad. And if I'm the Bucks, I don't want angry Chris. I don't want to give up my entire team for angry Chris Paul. You know, it's got to be like the right fit.
I wonder if he and Jay Kidd are boys.
Maybe, I don't know. But
Anyway.
It's year 11 for Chris Paul. Point guard history says you're in your past prime right now, basically. You're still in your prime, but you're running on the fumes of the prime. And now he's about to morph into a guy who can still get there, but it's not going to be every night. Like you watch Westbrook, it's like that guy's in his prime. Athletically, he's showing up every single night. You know what you're getting with Westbrook. Chris Paul's like moving toward the stage where that's physically not possible with all the miles that he has on him.
Well, I don't know any teams with assets that fit. Maybe Houston. That's the only one I can come up with. Teams with assets that fit the constraint you just put on, which is don't make Chris Paul angry in connection with the trade. Would he be angry if he went to Houston? In the first place, would Houston even trade with the Clippers?
I can't find the trade either. That's the problem with this. I
don't disagree with the premise, by the way. I think he's at an all-time high. Well, not all-time. That's silly. But for this phase of his career, his value is as high as it's going to get. That's what I really mean.
I mean, you could do a Toronto with Kyle Lowry, but if I'm Toronto, like, what does that get for me?
Right. No, I wouldn't do that.
I don't know. My point is, I don't know what the Clippers should do, but they can't win with the team they have, and it's just going to get old, and they're going to miss their window, and it's going to be over. And I would not trade Blake if I was them. I would.
And they've said it. This is the window is this year.
I would shop DeAndre.
Wow. After all that we just went through.
I know. You got to, though. You got to at least see what's out there for him.
Dallas have anything of interest coming back to the Clippers? The problem is the teams that make sense for Chris, where he's not going to be mad, are in the West, and it doesn't make any sense for the Clippers to trade with somebody in the West.
Here's the Clippers' destiny. Right now, they're a 4 seed. That's where they're going to end up unless Durant or Westbrook goes down for a big stretch, and they're going to lose to Golden State in round 2. That's going to happen 3.5 months from now.
Put it in the book.
Put it in the book. They're going to lose to Golden State in round 2. So, do you just accept that, or you try to do something? It's
a hard one. I mean, we talked about this 5 weeks ago with Chicago and D Rose. Now, at the moment when we talked about it with D Rose, he was still not able to see out of both eyes.
I'd trade him right now.
Who, Chris Paul or D Rose?
I'd trade Derrick Rose. I just did another drink that wasn't spit. I'd trade Derrick Rose to. I'd try to get Brooklyn to bite on him.
He looked really good last night.
Yeah, trade him right now.
Your team could not get in his way.
Good. Trade. Who wants him?
Chicago and LA Clippers? D-Rose to the Clippers?
The track record of guys not being at an elite level for like more than 3 years and then coming back and rejoining that elite level is really not good in the NBA history.
There is no track record.
There's no track record at all.
Who fits that description?
Bill Walton. And Bill Walton did it playing 18 minutes a game for the Celtics.
He's a role player.
Yeah, he became a role player.
He wasn't elite. He was an elite role player.
My fear with D Rose is that it's a Penny Hardaway type of situation where Penny Hardaway goes from Orlando to Phoenix, gets knee surgery. He's good. He's good for a year. His knee's hurt again. And everybody's kind of like, no, they have Penny Hardaway. He's great. And he wasn't great anymore. And a couple years passed and he got hurt again. He came back, he got hurt again. And then he got traded to the Knicks and it was over. You know, that would be my worst case scenario for them. What would you do if you're a Phoenix?
That's a rational question where you're asking me to try and apply rational thought to an irrational situation. I've been completely lost by their game plan, their MO, their strategy since the moment that they had 4 draft picks in the 2 years ago. 4 draft picks in a draft that people lauded as one of the best of the last 20 years.
You know what I noticed with them? You remember Dumars, I think, got bounced in the summer of 2014?
Yeah.
Dumars was like the all-time hit-or-miss GM. Every move he made was either fantastic or a complete catastrophe, and there was never a middle ground, right? Like, he'd be like This summer we signed Ben Gordon and Charlie Villanueva and tied up our cap space for 3 years. Like, just complete catastrophe. Darko Milicic over Carmelo. Yeah, that's great. But then he'd flip it around. He'd be like, yeah, we're going to take Andre Drummond. It's like one of the best picks of the decade.
Yeah, spectacular.
Tayshaun Prince, the Rasheed Wallace trade, signs Chauncey Billups. The Allen Iverson trade, another catastrophe. But he was like hit or miss, hit or miss, hit or miss. And now Phoenix has assumed that mantle. Everything Phoenix does is either terrible or fantastic. And they're on a run of terrible.
Category.
Huh?
Yeah, what's been fantastic?
But remember, heading into that summer, they had like 1 million first-round picks. They had cap space. They had all these young guards. Things were looking great.
And they won 48 games.
They won 48 games. Hornacek, Markieff Morris. They locked down the Morris twins to a really good contract. And then
they went out and got another point guard.
Hell.
Yeah, they went out and got another point guard and pissed off Goran Dragic.
The biggest mistake, they should have kept Isaiah Thomas. They should have kept that Lakers pick. That Lakers pick is going to rear its ugly head.
So Markieff is going to go somewhere. That will be a trade. I don't know where. I would welcome him to Washington, by the way.
I'm glad people are finally realizing what happened with Markieff. This is the most cut and dry thing that's ever happened in the NBA, where it's like, oh, what happened to this guy? Why is he so bad? He signed a deal with his brother. They said, we'll give you $52 million for 4 years. You guys split it up however you want. They're like, great. We won't even explore our market value. We just want to be here. We want to play together. We'll sign this deal. Their agents didn't put a no trade clause, any of that stuff. And then they trade his brother a year later. And now he's got a bad contract for what his production was. He's not playing with his brother anymore, which is the whole reason he resigned. They screwed him over. And he's mad about it.
Yeah, well, and he's a millennial, so it's his fault.
House, we're gonna wrap
Sarver
up.
said?
I didn't realize how late we went. We'll talk more hoops next week.
Can't wait.
So thanks to Squarespace for making it so easy to build state-of-the-art websites without breaking a sweat, regardless of your skill level. No coding needed. House, you're going to do this weekend. Promise me.
I'm going to do it, and the thing I'm most excited about is the food porn section.
Yeah. Okay. At Squarespace.
We're allowed to do that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're going to build a website. You're going to have football pics and photos of things that you've eaten.
That's right.
By the way, I would bookmark that website. Can you do that already? Thank you. You get 24/7 online support, a beautiful website for only $8 a month. You even get a free domain. So, House, you get to come up with your own domain. Start a trial, no credit card required on squarespace.com. Offer code BS, 10% off your first purchase. Thanks to HBO. You don't need cable or satellite to watch HBO anymore. Just download the HBO Now app. Start your free 1-month trial today. The new Mad Max movie starts streaming on HBO Now and HBO Go this weekend.
I heard it's spectacular.
It's pretty great, and one of the better things they've streamed in a while. They also have The Godfather. Remember they did the Godfather thing where they did it chronologically?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that starts next week. Always good stuff now on HBO Now, so check that out. Thanks to SeatGeek, the presenting sponsor of the BS podcast and the Channel 33 podcast, which we had a bunch of podcasts that we did this week, including I did a Bachelor podcast with Juliet Littman.
Oh.
Yeah. Did
Good
my
one.
whole theory about Jubilee, who every year they always have just one or two black contestants on The Bachelor for some reason, and nobody ever thinks this is the worst thing ever, which it really is. Like at least one year have like 8.
Pretty obnoxious.
But this one they have this year really has a chance to make a run. And
I haven't watched The Bachelor in 12 years.
well,
I'm
you
a
should watch
middle-aged
this
man.
one. Jubilee. She's a war hero. She's beautiful. And
I love her name.
has a chance to be. I always used to compare this to like Gonzaga making the Final Four. Just flipping the script and
She goes on a run. It might be the Jubilee pick of the week. That might go on
Jubilee.
the website.
Yeah, you'll like Jubilee.
HouseFromDC.com.
Yeah. So anyway, Channel 33, a whole bunch of good stuff on there. Check that out. Enjoy the weekend. Good luck with your football picks, and you can subscribe to the BS Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. We are out. House. Good luck with the skins. Good luck with the
Thank you
skins,
so much.
and try not to assault Daniel Snyder.
I'm actually rooting for our paths not crossing.
All right, good. All right, enjoy the weekend. Thanks.
Ready, rolling.
We about this bitch. Anytime y'all want to see me again, rewind this track right here. Close your eyes.